So a few days ago, Deca released their producer's letter for 2025. Well, they're calling it a team letter this time, but it's the same thing as a producer's letter. The last time they did one of these was way back in 2022. That's the one where they said they were going to do the biggest month of the Mad God ever, and then released Vindication, so they were probably scared to do another one. There also wasn't a whole lot for them to talk about. I mean, you had Advanced Dungeons, you had Enchantments, but the main thing was just the Realm rework, so they said, hey, we're working on the Realm rework. That was stated at the start of 2023 in lieu of a producer's letter. But now we're back to having producer's letter. Well, team letter. Different name, but it's the same idea as before. A lot of other people have already discussed this, but I'm different, okay? The first thing they mention in this team letter is the Realm rework. I just talked about that. They've been working on it for 2 years, and it was officially released at the end of 2024. Here they say they're going to continue working on it, which does make sense, because a lot of the art's missing. Some of the biomes don't even have art at all for the new realm. And all the biomes, especially the veteran biomes, are just kind of boring. There isn't a lot of reason to go there. You look in the Floral Escape, and the enemies don't really make sense. I kind of don't like the Floral Escape biomes enemies. Some of the features that were originally announced for the Realm rework, like dungeon difficulties, never even made it to the Realm rework's final release, though they don't get mentioned in this little paragraph about the Realm rework's continued work. So that's probably scrapped completely for the final version, which is fine. I don't think anyone even remembers when they mentioned dungeon difficulties. I'm not even sure if Deca said what they were entirely. There isn't much else to say about this part of the team letter, though. It's more work on the Realm rework. We got that. It was great. It can continue to be great. Looking forward to that. The first new feature that's in this letter is equipment rarity, which is a rework of the enchantment system, so it's not a new feature. Enchantments are so weird. So they were originally announced way back in 2021 in that producer's letter. Then it got canceled because they had so much going on that year. Then they announced it again for 2023, Month of the Mad God. And then a rework of that enchantment system was announced just 2 weeks after it released, which is kind of crazy. You think, why not just hold back the release if you're going to announce a complete overhaul so quickly? Now in 2025, they're announcing another rework. It's only been like a year and a half since the last Enchantments rework. Dungeon modifiers never got this treatment. This rework's a lot more significant than the last one, though. For one, it adds colors. All the items will be able to have up to 4 slots. The functionality for this was already in the game because it was planned for the 2023 version. But then they cut it because it was just so powerful. Even now, with 1 slot on a ring, you get relative stat, and it's insane. It basically overpowers every single untiered item, and there's not really much reason to use something that isn't a tiered item, unless it's a really powerful weapon or something. But rings, you just get a slotted tier 7 attack or dexterity, put relative attack or dexterity on it. It beats everything except gemstone in some cases. Hopefully this time they won't be as strong. It's being worked on by Distratix, who's known for doing a ton of balance changes in previous years. Pretty much every single year that Distratix was working on the game, there was a major balance patch in April. Most notably, he nerfed the Crystal Shield. That was pretty controversial, but he knows balance, so I think we're in good hands with the enchantment rework being done by the balance guy. A 4-slot item's still gonna be really strong. They said this in the team letter. Content is not going to be balanced with 4-slot items in mind. And then later on Discord, they said that 2 slots will be the balance point, which does sound bad, but they're also massively increasing the drop rate of all untiered items. Of course, an item with a slot is going to be kind of rare. An item with 2 slots is going to be a bit rarer. An item with 3 slots is going to be a bit rarer than that. And then an item with 4 slots is going to be super duper rare. But with the increased untiered item rates, I don't think it's going to be that bad to find something with 2 slots. Now, you don't have to run 100 Abysses to get the Demon Blade. You'll just have to run 100 Abysses to get a Demon Blade at the blue rarity. Speaking of which, I want to talk about those colors on the rarities. They seem to be using the same color scheme that a lot of other modern live service games use. A couple other places in the game use this color scheme, like the pet yard, the pet skins. You can see the different colors in the background of each of the pet skins, the common one's gray and all that. And fishing in the realm also uses these colors for some reason. But Deca has their own rarity system that they introduced around the end of 2020. Skins, for example, are ranked Basic, which is brown, Greater, which is gray, Superior, which is yellow, Paramount, which is red, and Exalted, which is blue. The forged materials use that rarity system. They just have different names. You got the rare materials, the epic materials, the legendary materials, and the mythical materials, which are blue. It's so weird that you have different rarity systems in the game, but nobody even talks about this. I kinda get if the rarities were split between gameplay mechanics and commercial mechanics, like skins are a commercial mechanic, enchantments are a gameplay mechanic, but then the item forge uses the skin system, so never mind that, I guess. The more I think about this, the more it just annoys me. I wish they just used one rarity system, or, like I said, split it between commercial and gameplay. But I seem to be the only one who's noticed this, so maybe it's not actually a big deal, and I should be ignored. They don't say a whole lot about what kinds of enchantments we're going to see in the game. It's probably not going to be too much different from what we have, stat boosts, relative stat boosts. Though they do say reroll costs aren't going to increase over time, so you can reroll as item as much as you want to. That's good. Currently, if you reroll a high tier item enough, the cost just gets so high that you can't even reroll it anymore unless you buy dust cap extenders, and even if you do that, you're only going to get one reroll before you have to go right back to running dungeons and get more dust. It's so annoying, and I don't think anyone likes it. People complain about it all the time. There's also going to be artifacts that let you influence your chance of getting specific enchantments. They didn't say a whole lot about how these are going to drop, though they did say they were going to replace engravings in advanced dungeons. And then advanced dungeons will also have better chances for enchanted items. But they also said the artifacts would be a common reward type that won't drop every run like potions, so maybe they'll drop from more places than just advanced dungeons. It wasn't super clear about that. They did say they were going to do a Q&A eventually, but that hasn't happened yet, so I don't know. They also say that you'll be able to recycle items to try and get enchanted ones, so that's good. Currently, I'll just ignore items if they're on the floor and I can't immediately use them. So now I can pick them up, take them to the forge, try to get an enchanted item that's better. This also gives some value to running any dungeon that you want. Currently, you have shiny items that can incentivize running dungeons that one wouldn't normally care about. But if you don't care about shiny items, those are just a cosmetic thing, then there's no reason to run anything besides whatever drops the best stuff. Until now. So I'm actually really looking forward to this feature. It seems like it'll add a lot of value to the early and mid-game stuff, and some value to the in-game stuff. I'm not really bothered with the in-game stuff, but the mid-game stuff is going to be so good now, and that's great. I like running mid-game dungeons. Okay, now an actually new feature that they mentioned here, the first actually new feature they mentioned, since the other one was the realm rework and then a rework of enchantments, basically. We have the Grave of Eden. It's some new end-game thing. It's described as an end-game island that's a new addition to the realm. It's not entirely clear what it is, but I'm imagining it as an area in the realm that's like an in-game dungeon, but you can nexus from it and then come back whenever you need to. They say that there's going to be a world boss at the end. I think this is going to be like a really dangerous realm encounter. Realm encounters being the big quest monsters that Oryx announces in chat and are marked on the map with the helmet icons. But this is a world boss, so it's going to have like a planet icon and be super dangerous. And Oryx will be like, what? They also mentioned a brand new in-game dungeon, the Eternity Summit, that's going to drop tier 15 equipment and feature the ancient dragon Zil. So basically a second wing of the Mountain Temple. That's one of the most requested things since Mountain Temple was added. I remember it was called the first wing of the Mountain Temple, so everyone thought, oh, we're going to get a second wing. Then we never did. It features Zil, who's the main bad guy that we learned about in the original Mountain Temple. So really exciting stuff. But I don't care. Like I said, I'm not really bothered with in-game content, so I'm probably not going to run this that much unless a mission requires me to, though. Maybe with these drop rate increase and enchantment stuff, I'll be more willing to run in-game dungeons. It does seem like they want to make in-game stuff more generally accessible for people who aren't running Discord raids all the time. Speaking of not running Discord raids all the time, the second brand new feature, and the last brand new feature that they mention in this team letter, it's actually not that big when you think about it, is raid tickets. I like that name, raid tickets. These are like super loot boosters that work on in-game dungeons, and you get them over time. I imagine once per day sort of thing. So once per day, you do an in-game dungeon, you get very high drop rates, almost a guaranteed white bag maybe, and then you don't get any more raid tickets until the next day. It might not be once per day. They don't say how often you're going to get the tickets, but once per day seems like the most obvious thing to me. This is to incentivize running in-game dungeons, even if you don't have the time or willpower to run lots of in-game dungeons to get the drop you're looking for. Now you can just say, oh, I've got a raid ticket, I'll do a nest or a Lost Halls or Cogbold Steamworks. So that's nice. They also specify that they will be free. A lot of people were worried that these are going to be monetized. Maybe they will, but they do say that these will be free and you'll get them on a timed basis. So it'll make in-game content more appealing to do casually. Then we have a whole section dedicated to account levels. These are already in the game, so it's not a new feature. They also don't say how they're going to expand it. They just say they want to expand the feature more, since the current one is not really that great. It's supposed to be aimed at new players. I get I'm not a new player, so of course I'm going to progress through it faster than a new player would. But I completed this thing in less than a week, and I don't even play that much. Other people completed it on the first day, in the first couple hours even, which is crazy. This is a whole progression feature, account levels. You'd think that'd last longer than a couple days. Though I do think a new player would probably take a month, maybe 2 months to beat it. That's not that long when it's called account levels. You'd think this would show how long you've been playing the game, how dedicated you've been to the experience. But it maxes out at 50. You can't even go past 50. Then you have your last reward tier, and that's it. So here they say they want to expand it, probably just add new levels. They don't even have to be rewards for the levels, honestly. If there's just new levels to show how much you play the game, that seems pretty cool. You see someone with an account level of like 872, they've been playing a long time and probably aren't cheating because they haven't been banned yet, though that has been a controversial thing recently with cheaters. I don't feel like talking about that, though. Steam achievements are getting fixed, which is great. I don't play on Steam, though. And finally, they talk about some improvements to the new player experience, like a new tutorial, unlocking classes with fame, some more of those class modernizations they've been doing, and changing loading screens. I am kind of worried about the class unlocks thing for fame, because they like to make fame purchases really expensive. Pet eggs in the shop cost thousands of fame each, and new players need to buy a lot of those. So I'm just thinking that they're going to price the assassin at like 20,000 fame. Would you pay 20,000 fame for the assassin? Can you really expect a new player to pay 20,000 fame for the assassin? Loading screen changes seems interesting. In the team letter, they just say they're changing loading screens. They don't talk about the feature at all. But what would you add to the loading screens? Are they going to get the little walking guy from Flash Player? Maybe some tips that show up on the loading screen? That's the whole producer's letter, though. It seemed like it was going to be a really big deal. They were hyping it up on Discord for quite some time. But then it releases and there's not a whole lot here. But the stuff that is here is a really big deal. The item rarities especially. But other than the item rarities, they just say, we're going to continue updating the game. It's still nice to hear that though from them because they've been pretty quiet. I know player sentiment has been at an all-time low. Overall, it seems like we got a lot to look forward to with the item rarities, and for anyone who feels like doing in-game, you've got in-game stuff, and maybe it'll be good in-game stuff that'll make in-game stuff worth doing for people who aren't bothered with in-game stuff. Guess we'll just have to wait and see.